Hello everybody and welcome to this Pecha Kucha presentation about Ugly Betty and how we can use a television show to study the dynamics of television as an industry in the post-network era. I was originally slated to talk about the Latino commodity audience and how it has evolved over time, but I realized that it entails much more than that. But first, what is a commodity audience? This is a notion that television sells audience attention to advertisers and that advertisers want middle-class, bona fide consumers that can spend money on goods and services. Measurement in this sense is crucial in the arrangement because measurement creates the audience. Nielsen, Arbitron, the Audit Bureau of Circulation all generate numbers that allow television and other industries to quantify and sell audiences to advertisers. If it's high rated, it will fetch a high price. However, in the post-network era, this has gotten a little more complicated. In the network era, we had limited choice. We only had 4 networks. Now we have multiple networks plus other services competing for audience attention. So how do you deal with that? Television has dealt with it by becoming more of a niche medium. Now you can see that as a threat, but it's also an opportunity for people who want to produce content that's geared at specific audiences, such as Latinos, LGBT populations, African Americans, women, etc. In this sense, maybe a show like AKA Pablo, which was produced by Norman Lear in 1984, would have survived today. Today, we have more of a sense of what we think is a Latino audience. In 1984, that did not exist because Nielsen didn't even measure it. So fast forward to the 2000s. Ugly Betty comes, and now we have a sense of what is a Latino audience and how valuable they can be, so we can produce shows geared at this demographic. But why should we care? Why should we care at all about Ugly Betty? I think that it provides us an opportunity to study demographic, social, and rhetorical changes in post-network era dynamics. That is how television adapts to its new circumstances. And the first change is a shift in the mindset of how the industry thinks about Latinos. In the network era, Latinos were lazy, dirty, devious. They were a walking stereotype. And who wants to sell cars to these individuals? They're not bona fide consumers. Now, though, we have the new Latino rhetoric. They are citizens, they are family-oriented, they are bilingual, they are assimilated. We want to sell cars to them, so we create content that may appeal to them. In other words, Latinos matter, but some Latinos matter more than others. Think of it in terms of what Orwell wrote in Animal Farm. All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. It's the exact same thing. Bilingual Latinos are more valuable to the English-speaking networks. So how does Nielsen measure Latinos? We have gone from no measurement at all to being included in the NTI starting in 2007. The new Latino is a subset of a Spanish-speaking population. And that subset is of interest to the networks, to the English-speaking networks. The networks have come up with these truisms to justify airing certain shows, like Ugly Betty. And one of them is Latinos loving telenovelas. That's why they love Desperate Housewives, because it's like a telenovela. So they will love Ugly Betty because it came from a telenovela. It comes from Yo Soy Betty La Fea, one of the most successful telenovelas of all time. And it is successful because it has been syndicated as is and also sold as a format that other television companies can remake and adapt to their own cultures. That's what happened with Ugly Betty. Formats allow us some flexibility. As long as you keep the bad hair, the braces, and the eyeglasses, you can play around with different storylines, which is what ABC did. They introduced, for example, great storylines about LGBT characters and also a storyline about illegal immigration. ABC also threw a significant support into promoting this show as a celebration of diversity, first of Latinos, then of empowerment of women, and finally as an LGBT-friendly show. But the aim of this is to sell it, to sell Ugly Betty, whether to international syndication on iTunes, to merchandise products associated with the show, and to get local syndication deals, such as what happened with TV Guide in 2009. The challenges are multiple, and this is why it's so hard to survive in the post-network era. Technologies keep advancing, the audience keeps fragmenting, and we are measuring audiences differently. Now, the live ratings don't matter for negotiations about the price of advertising. What matters is the DVR ratings. And Ugly Betty did not do well in the live ratings, and it did not do well in the DVR ratings. So its support from the network eroded until it was finally canceled in 2010. So this is what I learned. Diversity is a business strategy. It isn't networks being friendly or fluffy. And you have to look at the content within a context. Only by considering technologies and measurement can we understand what is going on today on television.